Adolf Hitler trusted almost nobody. By the final years of World War II, the dictator of Nazi Germany had become so paranoid that he constantly feared betrayal from the very men leading his armies. Meetings became tense. Military commanders watched their words carefully. Some officers were removed instantly for disagreeing with him. Others were placed under surveillance. And eventually, Hitler became convinced that his own generals might destroy him before the Allies ever could. But the terrifying part is this: he wasn't completely wrong. Early in the war, Hitler's relationship with his military commanders looked strong from the outside. Germany's rapid victories across Europe made him appear unstoppable. Poland collapsed quickly. France fell in weeks. Much of Europe came under Nazi control faster than anyone expected. To many Germans, Hitler looked like a military genius. But behind closed doors, tensions were already growing. Many professional German officers came from old military traditions and viewed Hitler differently than Nazi loyalists did. Some respected his political success, but others privately believed he was reckless, emotional, and dangerously obsessed with personal control. At first, victories hid those problems. But once the war turned against Germany, everything changed. The invasion of the Soviet Union became a disaster. Millions of German soldiers were dragged into brutal fighting across massive distances, harsh winters, and endless Soviet resistance. Then came Stalingrad, one of the worst defeats in German military history. Thousands of German troops died or surrendered, and Hitler refused to accept responsibility. Instead, he became obsessed with the idea that failure came from weakness, cowardice, or betrayal inside the military itself. The more Germany lost, the less Hitler trusted his generals. He started interfering directly in military strategy, often ignoring experienced commanders and making decisions based on instinct or ideology instead of reality. Generals who suggested retreats were accused of lacking loyalty. Officers who questioned orders risked losing their positions instantly. Some were humiliated publicly, others disappeared quietly. Hitler became convinced that only absolute obedience could save Germany. But that mindset created fear throughout the military leadership. Generals stopped giving honest assessments because they feared Hitler's reaction. Meetings became less about strategy and more about telling Hitler what he wanted to hear. And behind the scenes, something even darker was happening. Some German officers were beginning to believe Hitler himself had become the greatest threat to Germany's survival. As Allied bombing destroyed German cities and Soviet forces pushed westward, certain military leaders secretly discussed removing Hitler from power. They believed the war was already lost and feared Germany would face complete destruction if he remained in control. That fear eventually led to one of the most famous assassination attempts of World War II, the July 20th plot. A group of German officers and conspirators developed a plan to kill Hitler using a bomb hidden inside a briefcase during a military meeting. The operation was led in part by Klaus von Stauffenberg, a German officer who believed Hitler was leading the country toward catastrophe. The plan nearly worked. The bomb exploded inside Hitler's headquarters, killing and injuring several people. For a brief moment, conspirators believed Hitler was dead and began attempting to seize control of the government. But Hitler survived, and after surviving the attack, his paranoia exploded completely. He no longer suspected betrayal. He believed it was everywhere. The Nazi regime launched massive investigations across the military. Thousands were arrested. Officers were interrogated, tortured, or executed. Some were forced to watch recordings of conspirators being hanged slowly with piano wire as punishment. Hitler became even more isolated after the assassination attempt. He trusted fewer people, relied increasingly on loyal extremists, and viewed nearly everyone around him with suspicion. By the final months of the war, the man who once controlled most of Europe was hiding inside bunkers, surrounded by fear and distrust. And maybe that's the darkest reason Hitler feared his own generals. Because deep down, he understood something terrifying. The people closest to power are often the first to realize when everything is collapsing. And by the end of World War II, even some of Hitler's own commanders knew Germany was heading toward disaster long before he was willing to admit it.